What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Relab Live episode. This time I'm going to talk to you about two of the most important things to have before you start prototyping a visual design for any digital design project. Now, it could be a website, it could be a mobile app, it could be an email template, it could be whatever. But here are what I think is the most important things to have before you even start designing. Now, in Relab, as what we call customer-obsessed digital design agency, one of the most important things to have in mind for any designers, any team members here at Relab before commencing any projects at all is to get an idea of what the user feels or what type of a journey does a user go through. Because by designing based on the user's needs, as well as knowing what the business needs are from the client's perspective, it's going to help you bring a lot more value to the project, especially if you are a digital designer and you want to deliver something that is more than just looking pretty. Then understanding the user versus the business needs and how to innovate within that intersection becomes so important. So the two things that I think is the most important assets to have before designing any visuals in terms of digital design is to understand who the user persona is. That's number one. Number two is what type of a journey or experience cycle do they go through within their interaction with your product. So the best way to explain this is to go through something that we've done in the past. Now I'm going to take the IELTS website redesign case study that we had. It's actually in the website as well, and there's also a video where I explain about it in detail and the type of sprint process that we went through for this project. But specifically for this video, I want to talk to you about those two assets that I mentioned earlier, the user persona and the user journey. So the user persona is done collaboratively, where we understand who the two main users are in IELTS's context. So they had persona number one and persona number two. I won't get into too much details, but the difference between them are they have very similar type of journey within the interaction with the same product, but they have different goals. So persona number one has goal A to achieve, and then persona number two has goal B. But then these two goals need to be met or needed to be met within the same product, which was the IELTS website, IELTS Essentials website. Okay, so the things that are important to identify are what are the facts, problems, behaviors, and beliefs, and the goals and needs of each user persona. First, before being able to do that, you got to identify what the challenge is. So the challenge was to increase test taker website engagement by implementing a new website information architecture, updating website key page designs, new test taker support content, and rolling out new brand messaging so that the nervous and the desperate, which are the two user personas, one's identified as the nervous, the other one is identified as the desperates. Test takers are better equipped to prepare for the test and improve their band scores. Okay, so based on each of their motivations, we then try to map out as a team what are the facts, problems, behaviors, and beliefs, and goals and needs for each and every one of them. So for example, for the nervous tester, the facts are they're at the beginning of their migration journey into Australia from their own country. They're somewhat within the age bracket of 19 to 39, doing their first IELTS or PTE test. PTE is a competitor to IELTS. There's another one here that was scribbled out, and I'll explain a little bit later why. An example of a problem is that this nervous tester is unsure on how to prepare for the IELTS. What are their behavior and beliefs? They're unsure how to decide between IELTS or PTE, which is the competitor that IELTS is going against. And in terms of goals and needs, they want to live or work overseas, for example, in Australia, Canada, the UK. They also have high aspirations of living and working overseas. Now, we do that process using Post-its. And then this is a step, the way it's documented on this window right now is a process where we've already gone through those steps of mapping out, doing some affinity mapping and that sort of stuff, and then grouping them. And then we've documented it this way. The reason why we've got things scribbled out and also some post-its, additional post-its on here, is because this user persona was presented to a larger group of stakeholders. So that could be senior management level, it could be managers from other departments who would somehow be involved in this project. They would review, they go up to the wall, they'll review the user personas and the characteristics that's defined for each persona, and they might think otherwise. So for example, this one says offshore, onshore. They didn't think that was important, and then that was scribbled out. There are additional things that they thought was important, but it wasn't documented here, so that's where they pick a post-it note and then write it down and then paste it up here, okay? But by understanding this, and ultimately the most important thing from my point of view is to understand their needs, ultimately. So what are the goals and the needs that they're trying to achieve? And from there, hopefully, the designers, as a digital designer, I'm able to build some sort of an empathy without having to draw up an empathy map or doing another workshop exercise on empathy mapping. But as long as I understand what the goals and needs and the motivations are and how it relates to the challenge of the business, then I'm starting to build my, I guess, context around what I'm about to design. Most important asset number 2 is the user journey map. Now, I have done another video about how to draw up a user journey map. We'll make sure that we have a link down below for you to refer to. If you haven't seen that one, make sure you see that, because that's where I explain in detail on how to draw this up. But essentially, from a user journey map, you've got information about how a user, or between those two personas, how do they achieve their goals. Within a user journey map as well, you would have a focus area on what to focus on within your prototype, and that's usually a decision that was done by the stakeholder or together with the team or just collectively. Okay, so within this context, we had 2 user personas, the nervous test taker and the desperate test taker. So that's how we differentiate the focus area between the 2. So one's in red and the other one's in blue. These little dots here are areas where we felt was important to focus on and where there's a lot of uncertainties and unknowns within the process. But ultimately, what we're going to focus on in our visual designer prototype is this focus area here. But by understanding what the goals were and what the user's goals and needs were, as well as what the business challenges were, you would have an idea of you would be in a good position to understand what the context of your design is going to be. So as a visual designer, what I can do is always relate back to the user journey, the persona, what are the user's needs, the user's goals, the pathways that leads them to the goals, and then that's going to give me an idea of a good flow. From that flow, I'm able to elaborate further into my digital design assets, whether it's user interface flows, my wireframes, or even my visual design interface. So from a designer's point of view, what I can do from here is always have a reference back to these stuff, or even always have them around me, whether in the room or whether documented or even just as photos that I always refer back to make sure that I stay true to the goal of the project, that it's actually going to assist the users to meet their needs. Okay, so in doing so, you're able to at least cover meaningful experiences for the user rather than just coming up with another pretty design. Being pretty and beautiful is obviously important as a visual designer, and that's why you have other methodologies on how to make sure you meet those expectations. There's also the lightning demo process, which I've done another video about that as well, and we'll have another link down below about it. But by combining the visual expectations as well as the UX experience expectations, you're going to be a very, very valuable visual designer or digital designer. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful for you. Don't forget to subscribe. Ask me any questions, drop a comment or message me or email me, alvin@relab.com.au. Always happy to answer your questions. All right, I'll see you in the next one.